Thanks. I'm Nichole Andre. I'm with the Ministry of Highways in Saskatchewan. So on the map there, we are the purple rectangle at the top. I was going to put in a map that I was like, we're just a rectangle. So FHWA new targets, of course, don't apply to us. So I'm not going to talk about those, but I thought I'd chat a little bit about how pavement preservation fits in with asset management for us. I guess kind of zooming back high level, what we look after with our ministry, we have our roads. And those are grouped into kind of three different categories. We have our pavements, and then we have our thin surface roads. So those are like a dust-free, non-structural type of a road. And then we have our gravel highways as well. So those all kind of compete overall for capital funding. We have a roughly $310 million, a little bit more than that, for capital funding. So that includes those roads and road preservation. It doesn't include the maintenance stuff, but for our preservation treatments and our repaving, as well as any growth, so some new infrastructure that we're adding to the system. Our capital bridge program, our capital culvert program, which is culvert replacements, and then we have a little bit of money in that big bucket there for geohazards, airports, and then safety improvements. So that big $310 million gets divvied up, and we get a chunk for our roads, and that's what our group kind of looks after from an asset management perspective. So this is kind of the cycle we go through during the year. Kind of start on the right-hand side of the wheel there with measuring condition. So we do that. We just started doing that every other year. We had for forever done it every year, but just with our budget constraints. And now that we're having to plan projects out longer so that our design teams have time to get designs done, as well as our provincial government has asked for each ministry to have 2-year capital plans. So we have to identify these projects earlier now. So that's shifted us to just measuring condition every 2 years. So we get our condition in, and then we run our pavement models with that. And then we sit down and look at how much money we want to put at different targets for condition. And we set targets for our IRI, our rutting, and our cracking numbers. And then we divvy that up into different programs. So from that, we work out how much we need for our seal coating, our microsurfacing, our repaving, our thin lift overlays. And then at the same time, we work out how much money we would need for each of our maintenance crews. So we also divvy out money to the crews based on what the conditions of their roads are. So for a district where we may not be doing as many preservation projects, if they have poor condition roads, we know we need to give them a little bit more routine maintenance money to keep those roads safe, or maybe to do some crack sealing and that kind of thing. So they work out their maintenance plans in the beginning of the year and get those set up and going, and then we're working on identifying our pavement preservation projects. So that's kind of how things go throughout the year. So that's kind of pavement preservation and asset management. And then I thought I'd talk a little bit about a few tweaks we've done with our microsurfacing program. So one thing that we have recently changed this summer, we do microsurfacing to address rutting problems. And so we'll do one pull where we're filling in the ruts, and then we'll do another pull over top where we're doing that cape over top. Our rut fill width of those rut fills was 1.5 meters, and we've actually increased that now to 1.8 meters wide. And that was mostly based on some complaints and feedback we were getting from the traveling public, actually, because a lot of times we do that rut pull, and then we would leave it, and sometimes instead of a full micro overtop, we would come and do a seal coat. And that would be done by a different contractor. So sometimes those rut fills were sitting there for 2, 3, sometimes 6 weeks, sometimes over the winter. And when it rains, we would be getting water kind of trapped in between where the ruts are, so you get this water ponding there as well as along center line. And that was kind of a concern with folks driving on those roads. We adjusted that width, so now the rut fills actually meet in the middle. So this is center line. So now this is just after the rut pull's done, so that top cape has not been done yet. So the only thing you can see of the existing surface is just right at center line there, where it, from right in the lane, standing right in the middle of the two where the two rut poles meet. We've had a lot of good feedback, and a lot of good feedback from like our local crews. They really like that too. This particular project here, our seal coat contractor isn't going to get to it this winter. He just ran out of time. So it's going to overwinter like this, and for the guys driving the plows, they're pretty happy about the new width, because now they're not going to be damaging the rut fill with their plows. So that's an advantage as well. So we've been using microsurfacing since 1999, so we've been doing it for many years. And what we've been finding now is that our rut problem has really gone away. We don't really have a rut problem anymore. We do have a few, we do have locations. We'll continue with a bit of a microsurfacing program for ruts, but there's just not a lot of those good juicy microsurfacing rut projects to do. So we're starting to shift to use microsurfacing as more of a surface treatment. Just set up a decision tree to find those kind of projects that make for a good microsurfacing treatment to address raveling and surface condition. So this is a picture of the kind of road. You can't really see great on the screen there, but where we have some raveling and pickouts that are fairly severe. We might go in and do a seal coat normally is what we would do there, but where you're starting to get raveling where it's kind of grouped together, so that's a good candidate that we're selecting for doing microsurfacing. So we have 4 projects planned coming up in the next couple of years for that. But one of our concerns about doing that is worrying about delamination. So I actually brought a chunk, I'll talk about this pilot we did this summer. So this is a core we took related to this pilot project that I'll talk about, and I'll just pass this around. So we cored the road, and then this particular spot where we didn't tack, it just popped off. So I just brought it with me. So it's like a little paperweight for my office. So anyone who hasn't seen what micro looks like for a rut fill application, this is a typical thickness that we would do for rut fill. So we did this tack coat. We had our contractor actually supplies all of the materials. When we contract, they supply everything. So they worked with their emulsion supplier to come up with a product to use for tack coat. They've done the rut pole, and they're tacking on top. And we did different sections. So we did somewhere we didn't do any tack. We did somewhere we did tack under the rut pole, and then somewhere we did tack under the rut pole, and then over top, and then again, and then we put the full layer over. If that makes sense. So this core here, you can see there's a couple layers of tack in there, and then there's those 2 layers of micro, basically. No results yet. We've sent all these cores off to get some testing done. We had to send a bunch to Quebec to do a special test. I don't know where pavement engineers are worrying about that. So we'll get some result back soon, and then we're hoping to kind of write a bit of a spec around using the tack coat as an option, or maybe requiring a longer warranty period. We only have a 1-year warranty period on our microsurfacing for the projects where we're doing just doing a surface treatment, just to try to buy a little bit of insurance against the delamination problem. And I have myself here as well as Scott Tybee. He's with our Central Region district or region. Yeah. Any questions? Good, thanks. Thank
you. The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.